Welcome to The Explainer. If you work in Australian migration law, look, you already know the daily reality. We carry a massive document burden. Between keeping up with strict MARA obligations, managing incredibly complex visa criteria, and just handling constant client communication, the stress is relentless. I'm looking at this from the perspective of a registered migration agent, and frankly, my tolerance for risk is zero. I've spent years building my practice, and one mistake could literally cost a client their future in this country. Joining me to talk about where artificial intelligence actually fits into this reality is a senior Australian AI consultant. Let's see if we can get some real answers today.
We deal with an absolute mountain of compliance every single day. In our line of work, application errors have severe life consequences for clients. A missed detail or an outdated form could mean a visa refusal, a business losing a critical worker, or a family being torn apart. Because of that, introducing new technology into a migration practice is incredibly daunting. Our risk tolerance for automated tools is understandably very low. We simply can't afford mistakes, and we definitely can't afford software that promises the world but doesn't understand the strict regulations we operate under.
Which brings us to a very real problem. How can migration practices adopt artificial intelligence without risking offshore data exposure or generating non-compliant advice? We've all seen generic platforms hallucinate legal answers. I can't have an automated system making up visa subclasses or sending sensitive client passports to servers overseas. The privacy breaches alone would be catastrophic. So how do we actually do this safely without putting our clients and our MARA registrations on the line?
That's exactly the right question to ask. When you look at standard automated tools, they're undeniably risky. They expose data offshore, they operate completely disconnected from your actual systems, and they give generic, unverified answers that could easily lead an agent astray. But Sunny AIOS takes a completely different approach. We're talking about Australian-hosted infrastructure, using Sydney local zones. Your data remains secure and sovereign. It never leaves the country, and it isn't used to train public models. It's a totally different risk profile, built specifically for highly regulated spaces where privacy is paramount.
So the crucial point is defining what this actually is. Sunny AIOS is a sovereign AI operating system. It's hosted entirely in Australia and designed specifically for regulated Australian professional services like your migration firm. This isn't just a basic chat interface you open in a web browser. It's an operating system built from the ground up to handle the exact compliance needs and strict data sovereignty requirements that registered migration agents face every single day. It respects the boundaries of your profession.
Right. That sounds reassuring on the data security front, but does this system actually understand the complex, constantly shifting requirements of Australian migration law? It's one thing to keep data secure in Sydney. It's another thing entirely to trust software to understand the nuances of the Migration Act or keep up with sudden policy shifts from the Department of Home Affairs. Legislation updates happen all the time, and missing one circular can derail an entire application.
It really does, and Sunny AIOS manages this by shipping on day one with the standard migration legislation pack. It actively monitors the Migration Act 1958, migration regulations, PAM3 guidance, LIN and IMI instruments, the MARA Code of Conduct, and even recent AAT and ART decisions. Every morning, it reads every regulatory update and automatically maps those changes to your active client files. It knows the difference between a subclass 186 and a 482, and it clearly understands the strict evidentiary requirements for both.
Okay, let's get specific. I want to see what this looks like in practice. Imagine there's a sudden policy change from the Department of Home Affairs impacting a 482 visa application. We know those changes can happen overnight and leave us scrambling for days to check which clients are affected. It's usually a massive headache. How does the system handle that exact scenario when time is of the essence? Let's break down that exact scenario. When Home Affairs issues a 482 visa policy update, Sunny reads and summarizes the new policy immediately. Then, it queries your active client database and flags every single 482 applicant affected by the change. Finally, it drafts compliance submissions based on the new rules. You aren't manually cross-referencing files for hours or paying junior staff to do administrative checks. The system does the heavy lifting, and it presents drafted submissions for your registered agents to review. It speeds up the process significantly without adding risk, freeing you up to focus on the actual strategy.
The speed is incredibly appealing, but as an agent, I'm still thinking about compliance. MARA obligations require strict auditability. The threat of an audit is something that keeps a lot of practice managers awake at night. If an auditor walks in tomorrow, how do we prove compliance? How do we ensure absolute accuracy across every single document the system drafts? I need to know exactly how it reached its conclusions before I put my name on anything.
Accuracy and auditability are non-negotiable, and the platform guarantees them through a few strict measures. First, the system is read-only by default. It can't alter your core database records on a whim. Second, every single output is logged with a precise timestamp. The system records the exact user, the specific source data it referenced, and its step-by-step reasoning. You have a complete digital paper trail ready for any auditor. Most importantly, human migration agents always provide the final sign-off. The system prepares the work, but your professional expertise validates it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Having the reasoning logged step by step gives me the confidence to actually sign off on the documents. So how does a busy migration practice actually implement this technology? We're already buried in casework, answering emails, and chasing documents. We can't afford to bring our daily operations to a halt just to learn a complicated new system. It has to be practical.
Transitioning needs to be seamless. That's why we structure the first 30 days very carefully. Step 1 is the X-ray workshop. We don't just hand you software and wish you luck. We map your specific workflows and constraints first to understand how your firm actually operates. Step 2 is design, where we build a phased roadmap with clear commercial outcomes attached. Step 3 is deploy. We integrate the technology securely and methodically, ensuring your team is fully enabled. It's designed to work around your heavy caseload, not interrupt it.
Crucially, Sunny AIOS natively integrates with the existing practice tools you already rely on. We're talking about seamless connections with Migration Manager, IMI Account, and Mara portals. It sits right on top of what you already have, so there's no steep learning curve. Plus, it includes a plain English client portal. Your clients can check their visa status securely without needing to call you every single day. Firms usually see a significant drop in stressful inbound phone calls within the first 30 days, which is a massive relief for administrative staff.
Reducing those phone calls asking for status updates would honestly give my team hours back every single week. It's clear that when the right infrastructure is applied to our specific regulatory problems, it becomes a very different conversation. It feels manageable.
Exactly. It's about applying the right strategy grounded in what is actually true about your practice. You can process applications accurately and securely without adding unnecessary risk. Find exactly where this technology will safely accelerate your migration practice. Discover your roadmap and book a live sandbox demo by visiting sunburntai.com.au. The question isn't whether artificial intelligence will change migration law, it's whether your practice will be ready when it does.